This is video number 3 in our series on making your life count and being a success. And as I've already mentioned, we're not really talking about money exclusively as the measure of success, although money doesn't hurt and money helps. And we are going to, and I promise you, we will try to sell you something in the last video of the series, or the second last one, I don't know which, but one that's coming very soon. But these videos are just for information, for your benefit. We're giving to you and giving the best that we have, and hoping that you understand what it is. You will be invited, as you know, to since we've been talking about you developing a team, you will be invited to join our team. Whether you find us on the internet or not, we are going to encourage you to come face to face with us. If you want a bigger part, if you want a smaller part, and just information, then that's the kind of adding knowledge. You lose some of the wisdom you'll get, and some of it you'll lose because you won't have the ability to interact directly. Ask the kind of questions you want to ask, or see us in the kind of environments that you would be able to look at and say, that's a team worth belonging to or not. But I want you to look at this video as an encouragement for me to paint you a picture of what it's like to own this opportunity, what it's like to own any kind of cause that you're wanting to be involved in, what it's like to walk in those places, to be a part of that, to get something done. In the first place, when you join a team, you don't have the responsibility of leading the team. And while leadership may be something that gets developed within that opportunity, you will find out that one of the great things about making a difference and being able to contribute something is not being in charge of it. To let somebody else have to do the heavy lifting, if you will, and you just add your voice to what's happening. You gain confidence with adding your voice. You gain a lot of things. One of the great things about giving to yourself, and probably if I had to put a main point on video number 3, I'm going to give it to you already. And then I'm going to explain it, of course, so you don't get it in 30 seconds and walk away. But the big deal is this, that when you give of yourself, you lose nothing. You gain everything. There's an old song, when I learned when I was a kid, it's love is something. When you give it away, you end up having more. And this is the actual truth of team building, when you realize that that's what you're trying to do. Now, if you're just looking at, well, I lost my time. Yes, you did. You gave your time and you don't get that back. Time is valuable. Time is something, people say time is money. If you're money oriented, you might think and take that to heart and say, well, if I give time to this organization or this cause or this group of people or these, whatever it is that I'm considering being a part of here, I will lose. There's definitely something you can lose. It's kind of like this. I wrote a book one time called Unfair Trade. And in Unfair Trade, I outlined the circumstances that are very real, although the story was fictitious, of Emmanuel, this coffee grower in Africa who would grow coffee for the cartel. The cartel was the only game in town. They paid a certain price. It was pennies on the dollar. And they could command the economy because it wasn't lawful to go around them and go to anybody else. Then one day, a group of people came in and challenged that concept of the legal machine in the area, the coercive arm of the law, and they said, we want to do things that are fairer, and so we want to offer a fair trade deal to a certain group of farmers. Well, Emmanuel decided to take them up on it, but he got caught. And as a result, his crop was confiscated and paid for at cartel prices. And this is a reality of some people's lives in the world. Unfair trade for some people is simply not an option. And there are all kinds of greedy people who could make money. Well, some people would say the cartel was a success. I wouldn't. I would say the cartel was making a life for people that didn't matter. They were keeping a lot of people from mattering, not just themselves, although the damage they did to themselves was incredible, but also to the people that they kept from being able to live a meaningful life, being able to give and to being able to contribute themselves. Poverty is a great curse. And so I'm not advocating that you look at success as totally devoid of money. I think fair trade and reasonable offers, which I expect to give you one in the next video, I see those things as valuable. I don't see those things as trying to scam people or say, I'm telling you I'm giving you something for free, and therefore, because I've got this hook at the end, that it's not for free, and there's no such thing as for free. Well, the content, if you haven't found it valuable till now, I don't know why you're still watching. Because the content I'm giving you is real wisdom, real success. It's not directly related to money, but it certainly doesn't leave money in the distance. So, I want you to understand how to make your life matter. That's the real reason we're doing this series. I'm going to give you an opportunity to join a team. That's what this is all about. But I want you to understand that whether you join my team or not, this is important information for your life. This is going to make a difference to you if you take these principles to heart and you begin to understand that this is how life truly leads to success, leads to making an impact, and leads to making a difference, is that it doesn't matter that mine is the one that you choose. Like I said, not everything is for everyone, and certainly not everyone is going to relate to me sitting here talking. Not everyone is going to relate to the fact that I don't have my regular voice and that I struggle with delivering these messages now. I still speak in public. I've had the opportunity twice since my stroke to speak without a voice. So that's an interesting side effect, and the thing is, I've been paid. It's not like I went and did it for nothing, and at the same time, it's something I was passionate about, something that people knew about my passion for it, and they asked me to speak. So that's the reason. So having done that and realizing that what you don't have is never what you build on, and that's another principle we brought up in another one. I don't have a voice at the moment. It doesn't stop me from making the video. It doesn't stop me from giving you my best content. It doesn't stop me from struggling or fumbling over my words on occasion either. But the things that I don't have are not what I'm offering you. I'm not offering you a golden voice. I'm not offering you the best English. I'm offering you an understanding of wisdom of how to make your story count. My story is counting even as we speak. There's things that will be revealed later on about how and specific opportunity. But today we're talking about you finding and owning and living in the opportunity that you are encountering by chasing the things that matter to you. By chasing the things that matter to you, it brings you into contact with people who have similar things that matter to them. And because that's true, you're going to find your tribe, you're going to find your team, you're going to find those, and you're going to join the team first because it takes the pressure off. And so when you have no pressure and you can get in and you can observe and you can learn and you can experiment and make all your mistakes while you're doing it under somebody else's reputation, that's a really good thing. And I would suggest that. When my kids first went to work, I suggested that they go to work for McDonald's. Not because McDonald's is the best restaurant in the world. I think I make a better hamburger than they do. But we weren't going to give the kids the experience of understanding to what degree the success of McDonald's depends on the function of the systems they have in place. They have trainings for everything. They have management manuals for everything. They have layouts for everything. They have positions for everything. They have remodeling programs for everything. Everything is done as a unit, and it all contributes to the success or the failure of McDonald's as a corporation. One of the reasons that people go to McDonald's is because it's not different from the one in their neighborhood. When they're traveling, and they don't know where to eat, they know what to expect. They're not looking for the best thing, they're looking for something quick, but they're looking for something that's a known quantity. The more developed your team is, the more you live in that opportunity, the more you've come to learn, and the more you've come to create systems for your team to function and to lead the team, the more you are going to have success. And so my recommendation to my children was, go to work for this company, not for the paycheck, because the paycheck won't be very good, but it'll be a beginner's paycheck, and that's kind of where you expect to start your life. But go there paying attention to the systems. Go there paying attention to why they are successful. Go there with an understanding that what you're going to get out of the job is more than the money. It's the wisdom. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do today, is to not look so much at the cost of the time that you're going to spend chasing somebody else's dream, if you will, of them solving a world's problem, but because you care about that problem, what you're going to do is you're going to actually begin to learn wisdom and gain wisdom by being part of the team. So when you look at the cost of something, you look at the reward. When I say to somebody, I got something for $100, do you want it? The question is, what is it? If it's a pen, the answer is no. I mean, especially if it's Bic. I mean, who would pay $100 for a Bic pen? You can buy a package of them for less than 10. And so nobody would pay $100 for a Bic pen. But, no, that's assuming maybe Bic costs something that's high-end that I don't know about. But what would happen if that $100 was paying for a all-expenses cruise for 2 weeks, and all the food you could eat, and get away, and all of that? I don't know too many people who wouldn't say, sign me up. Those maybe some wouldn't, because every offer doesn't belong to everybody, right? Some people are afraid of the water, and they would say, oh no, not a cruise, send me anywhere else, but not that. Or don't put me on an airplane, I can't go there. But if you said, I don't care where in the world you want to go, I want to pay for all your food and all your lodging and give you 2 weeks away, whether it's an hour away by car, or whether it's somewhere you have to get by walking and camping, or whether it's on a cruise ship, or whether it's in Las Vegas, or whether you're going to Europe or the capitals of anywhere in the world that is intriguing to you, whether it's the glitz of, whether it's Seattle and seeing the Rockies and of Washington State, or wherever it is, then the $100 suddenly seems to be cheap. It's like it's the same amount of money. If it's too expensive at $100, isn't it too expensive at $100? Well, that's why we talk about these things. That's why we put on these long seminars and stuff, is because we want you to understand the value of what we're going to involve you in eventually. It's not about the money. It's not about, if I told you right now the price, it would be in a vacuum. You wouldn't know. What does that mean? What does it mean for you to do something? As it is, I don't think we're even going to get close to anybody's definition of expensive. But at the same time, it could be. Could be if you're in India right now and you feel that this invitation means that you get on a plane and come to an event. Well, that's more money than if you're next door. So that's where we're at. I want to kind of make that point, because you need to understand the value, or the idea that, we talk about giving of ourselves. Giving of ourselves is a cost to us. It's always a cost to us. When I became a Christian, and when I was writing that book, Fair Trade and those situations, I get into it in a little bit later to talk about the fact that Christ has created an unfair trade on your behalf, because you have nothing left to offer him. Even as Emmanuel had nothing left to finish a fair trade deal, we really have nothing to offer God. If we say, oh, well, God, if you'll just do this, then I'll do that. Like as if God needs it, It's kind of silly, really, when we think about it, that anything humans could create or come up with, when God created everything simply by speaking, including you. You exist by the word of God. The ground you walk on is nothing more than what he said when he said, when he uttered creation into being. The ground is the Word of God. Think about that for a second. The ground you walk on, the thing you say, oh, I'm standing on solid ground now. Stuff that's for sure. Nothing more than what God said. So God spoke. We have nothing to add. We have nothing we can contribute to that. No matter how good we are. Is it going to register with God? Is it going to make a difference to him? Is he going to look at your efforts and going to go, that's really valuable. I never would have thought of that. He won't. So the reality is this, that when you look at what you're giving up, you always give up something to gain something. No such thing as a free lunch. You're giving up time right now to watch this video series. Time is money. Time is valuable. No argument from me. You are putting something of your life in here. Hopefully you're getting something out of it. That is my intention. That is what I want for you. I want you to take something out of it really, really solid. But we can't trade anything to God to gain heaven. Heaven is not a reward for good people. This also was another comment that came in. That we really have to realize this. This is something that is a gift to God, or a gift from God to man. That it's not for being good, it's for simply choosing to believe him, choosing to trust him. If you ever get a chance to stand in judgment, and God says to you in this hypothetical question, because he won't ask, he'll know already, but he'll say to you, if he were to ask you the question, not a theology quiz. He will never ask a thing to say, which church did you belong to? Which group did you go to? None of those things will matter. He will simply ask one question. Who did you believe? Who did you trust? And if we trusted him at whatever level of understanding we had when we did it, he welcomes us. Because he said, you trusted my sacrifice for you to become part of this. You trusted me to do what I said I would do on your behalf to get it done, and you believed I would do it and that I was able to, and therefore you could come in. It has nothing to do with, did we understand right? Did we get it all right? Did we figure it out? It's about who did we trust to have it all figured out, to do it all for us. Well, that's where heaven becomes a reality, as for those people who choose to believe that God is true and that what he says is true. It's important. So, for us, in your life, you're trying to make your life have an impact. You're trying to make your life count. You want your life to be successful on all levels. Well, to me, all I could give you was what I just told you. All I could give you was to say, put your trust in the right person. In the right person to do all that he said. And then, when you realize what he's given, then you realize what your desire is. Your desire is to reciprocate. Your desire is to give back. And so we know somebody has faith by the way they live, because it doesn't make any sense to say, okay, I'm traveling at, 120 miles an hour down this road. Somebody flags me down and I stop, and they say to me, the bridge out there about a half a mile down the road is out. Do not keep driving on this road or you will die. And then to say, yeah, well, I really believe that, and then to get back in my car and continue on the road at 120 miles an hour. I would not have really believed it. I could say I believe it. I could have the head knowledge that the bridge is out. But if I don't really believe it, it doesn't change anything in my behavior. So we look at things, we say, well, you can't, it's not a free lunch. You have to be a good person to get to heaven. No, you don't. But if you're not a good person, do you really believe? So that's the question that you have to ask yourself, is if you don't see a change in your life. Are you really a believer that God said sin is abhorrent to him, that you do have a sin problem, that these are things that are common to humanity and that all humanity is lost until they find what he has done for them? Do you really believe that? If you don't, it's not going to make a difference. The bridge is still out. If you do, and you don't treat it like you do, and you continue down the road, the bridge is still out. The end is still coming, and it will not be the way you think. So that's the truth. That's the most I can give you out of this particular venture. But I want you to know what it's like to live in victory, what it's like to live in success, what it's like to live in this final thing is that you found your purpose. You're letting God design the purpose for your life. The purpose that He has designed for your life, by the way, is relationship with Him. So I'm encouraging you to develop that, to get around people that believe passionately in developing a relationship with Him and making that a part of the team that you're building. Now, there are other things in your life that God will give you to do. When God made Adam, He didn't give him a job that was spiritual particularly. He told him to go name the animals. Well, Adam, naming the animals, understood something about the characteristic of what that animal was. And this is something that I think we miss when we talk about names. We don't think in terms of the character that God put throughout the Old Testament and assigning names that had a specific impact on the life of the person, or assigning names that had a specific definition of their character to them. But that was the way God did things, the way Adam did things. He named animals according to the nature of the animal. And he understood the animal. His job, his first job, before the fall, before work became necessary for us to feed ourselves, when God was feeding us and everything else was for our own benefit, and the work was fulfilling and purposeful and beyond just putting your hand to your mouth and dying later. And unfortunately, many people choose to live there because they've never learned to get free of the fall. But the truth is, God has a purpose for you. God wants to take you past that point of work to feed yourself and feed yourself to work. Because that's a cycle that leads to no purpose. It leads to no impact. And it leads to no success. It leads to death. So what ends up happening is God says, all right, what do I want from you? I want you to trade your contract with death to me for a contract of life. I want you to give me up something. I want you to give up something you cannot hold on to for something you cannot lose. God's offer is eternal life. Yours ends in death. Your problem will go away when God designs your purpose. So once you have that done, are you going to make an impact on life? Are you going to make an impact here? Well, God put you here to have an impact here. So yes, the good news is every one of you has a story to tell, has a team to build, and will make a difference in this life if you choose to. You also have the possibility of it never coming to an end. And that's the good news. So part 3 of this video is to partly, I didn't even intend to get into all of this stuff because so much of it is spiritual, and I recognize a lot of my audience isn't going to think like me spiritually. They're going to think different. And I would like to tell you that's okay, except God is the source of the truth on this. And as long as you're getting your information from Him, I won't argue with you. You can have different thoughts, different feelings, different understandings, different concepts than I do. That's okay. But God is going to be true. And my belief, as yours should be, is that we trust Him to always be true. That's the basis of eternal life, is that we trust Him. He is the one who has to do the work to get us where we need to go. So we give it to Him. We pass the ball to Him, as we talked about in video 1. We do the one thing at a time. We do the right thing. We build our team. We get together, but we live in this victory. We begin that life, in my opinion, we begin that life in Christ. I think that's something for you to discover. And I think it's necessary for you to discover it. In addition to that, you can live in the victory of seeing certain causes come to good ends. You can see things developed. You can see things progress. You can see things that you set for yourselves as goals accomplished. And success can be a part of your everyday life. And the team that you build around you, that unites around your cause and your purpose, and you've heard mine today. So, I want you to join me. I really do. I want you to join me in the spiritual cause, whether or not you join me in the physical causes. For me, my life is about a number of things. I have made great strides in alternative medicine. I've made great strides in art. I've made great strides in a number of things. And all of these things are part of my story. So all of these things will come to bear. My stroke affects this. It's part of who I am. It's part of what you will learn about my story next video concerning the stroke and what is, I believe, intended, and why I am excited about moving forward from here, not from what I don't have, but from what I do have. And so we're looking to gain certain things. There's all kinds of reasons and purpose in this. And your key is to find your reason, your purpose, and to unite, to get together physically with people of like mind and like heart. You know, the Bible talks about it spiritually and says that don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, so much the more as the time goes by and as the time approaches that he's coming. And so we are really excited about the relationship we have, so we get together with people with that relationship to talk about that relationship and to learn to develop more what we really need. So that is really the point. That is really the story that we're all about. Success is a journey, not a destination. You decide you're going to be successful, and it's kind of like an instant success. It doesn't have all the trappings of success. It doesn't have all the rewards of success yet. But the truth is that once you make the decision, and it's a quality decision, and you're walking on a journey that will lead you somewhere, the destination is more or less assured. Somebody said one time, how do you eat an elephant? And a wise guy said, one bite at a time. That's pretty good. And then I finally got a hold of an actual recipe from Africa of elephant stew, and they said the ingredients are pretty simple. You get one elephant and two rabbits, and you put the rabbits aside, and you create this slow simmering chunks of meat that you cut up into small pieces, and you create this brown gravy that goes over it, and you make this wonderful stew out of the simple ingredients of one elephant and a few flavors, herbs, and some things they collected locally. And I don't remember all the things that go in it, but they said this will feed 3,875 people. If a few more show up, use the rabbits. But I caution you against this because some people really don't like, are you ready for this? Hair in their soup. So, anyway, eating an elephant one bite at a time is the point. We need to realize that you cannot accomplish a giant thing except by one thing at a time. And so we isolate what is the important ball that God has left in our hands to do right now. How do I do this to the best of my ability? And when I'm done, I pass it back and he hands me another ball. And it may be a ball I'm not expecting. It may be trials, tribulations, problems, difficulties. But in solving the problem, I'm letting the seed get through the ground and grow up. That harvest is coming. That end of the destination is sure. That one step at a time is going to take me through till the rewards are simply the evidence, right, of the things that I have believed and have acted in behalf of. And those rewards are sure. They're not happenstance. They're not random. They're not something that you don't know anything about. You learn on the way. It's called wisdom. It's called the acquisition of knowledge, of understanding, of wisdom. You get it. And the process is, it's not overnight, and it doesn't start with you at the top. It doesn't start with you as the leader. You earn leadership one step at a time. You learn leadership by walking and doing with a team, not by being in charge of the team. If you have to learn by being in charge because nobody else is doing it, so be it. That's a good niche. Maybe. But if nobody else is doing it, you wonder how important the niche is. Right? So in marketing you do that. You go in and you see a problem that needs solving and you wonder, does anybody else care about this? So you put out some information and you find out that yes, there are people who have whole, Facebook groups and other things where there's communities built around these things that you care about. So whether it's creating a product for people's benefit, whether it's a cause or an illness or something that has touched your life that causes you to care deeply, a wrong that you see righted in the world or that you need to see righted. See, all these things are all possibilities. And commerce, by the way, is not the least of these. I mean, creating products that benefit people's lives. You live in products that benefit people's lives. Not very many of you, if you wash clothes, would like to go back to the old hand wringer washing machines, or like to have to go down to the river with a scrub board and some soap, or even better yet, having to make your own soap. You see, these are things that benefit our lives by people being in business and doing good things. And so some of these causes are not just spiritual causes, they're not just, environmental causes, they're not just, health issues or challenges, they're not just, this is a moral cause I need to get on board with, or something else, or any kind of thing like that. Sometimes it's simply a matter of, I'm here on earth to improve the lives of other people, to give them more time, to give them more options, to give them more choice, to make their story work. Because each person who comes along in a support role realizes that their support allows someone else's story to be heard. So very key to make your life count. Discover from God what His purpose was in making you. And do that by looking deep in your heart, deciding what's very, very, very important to you. What you're gifted in. What you're skilled at. What people say, oh man, I'm so glad you did that. Those are things that matter. For me, those things are kind of simple. I write a lot of songs. Why do I write songs? Because I observe a lot of life. When I observe a lot of life, I comment on things that make a difference in other people's lives, and art, that's really art, is born. A lot of my songs are not very commercial. They're too lyrically sophisticated, according to some publishers. I actually had one tell me that in Nashville. He said, you're a great writer, but you're going to leave most people in the dust because you talk about things they don't think about. Well, maybe that's the point, isn't it? Maybe the point is that if I talk about them and somebody's talking about them, you'll find out that more people actually think about it than most publishers would give you credit for. Of course, I don't know how far there's a tear in my beer can take you. It's like those lyrics can only relate to a certain group, and maybe if that's all we get to listen to, maybe that's all where we go to drown our sorrows. But that is not the way. It's not the only answer. And Hollywood does that. I mean, they simplify everything into about 7 stories, they say. And they just retell them with different twists and different plots and different settings. But it's the same thing over and over again. Fortunately for me, God's Word doesn't leave me in that position, and the reality I rub shoulders with doesn't leave me in that position. And so I create things that are maybe not thought about by the average person, but I'm all right with that. It doesn't have to have a million seller. It doesn't have to be one. It just can be, for 100 people, 200, 300. That's a pretty good sized team, And if we develop 300 people that really care about these things, and they spread the word, the economics will take care of itself. See, today on the internet, you don't need 1 million people. You can get to 1 million people, but most of them won't care. To most of them, you will be noise. But when God is behind your story, and your story is developed, you've paid attention to the content, you've made things happen, and you live in the success of what you have developed, you will discover that your life is valuable, that it's worth living, and that all the trappings of success will find their way to you. The money will come. It will be there. I have adequate. I lost a lot. I had more. Does it matter in the end? No. Because today with my stroke, there's elements of my stroke that are difficult. And that may mean I live a very short life. So I ask God every day, pretty much, is this it? Am I going to get more opportunity, or have I used it all up? But my life has mattered. My story matters. And I put it on the internet because it might just matter to you. Hopefully, I can help you develop your story to a place where it matters to others. And it matters to the ones close to you. It will always matter to them. So I have one last story to tell you before we close this video. There's a guy online named Jeff Walker who developed a product called the Product Launch Formula. And I really like his approach to marketing things online and to developing a greater and greater email list. Now you may, if you pay attention to this, you may realize that if you're developing an email list, it's the online equivalent of developing a team. Because you're looking for people who go along for the ride. So here's what happens, right? When a person is in the process of hitchhiking, they got their thumb out, they're waiting for someone to come along that they can ride with. Now, I've picked up a lot of hitchhikers in my life, and I used to hitchhike when I was a lot younger. And one of the things that happened is I found that people's reasons for picking up hitchhikers varied. Sometimes they were just tired and they needed somebody to help keep them awake. Sometimes it was just a matter of they wanted some interesting conversation. They were lonely. They were long-distance travelers, some of them. So many different reasons why people would pick up a hitchhiker. For the hitchhiker, he always had a destination in mind, but he never, demanded and said, drop me off at the door, I'm not riding with you. It was a matter of riding together so long as they were going the same way. And so what you find here is that as you develop your team, and as you are developing this greater and greater platform, I guess, to launch your products or to launch into success here, the important thing to remember is that you are not getting married. You're not walking together all the way to anybody's particular destination. So as I have talked to you about doing all of these things, it's very critical to understand that there are times that your team will change. There are times when things will stop being the way they were and start being something else. That's a process. When you trust God to be developing your message, your content, when you trust God to have a purpose for you, you walk in the power of always being able to this authority, to have this authority to actually to live in the power of making a difference, to live in the power of mattering. You can do this. Every time you hit the button on an email list that sends your product launch to people who are following you and want to be a part of you, people will respond to that if they're part of your team. And so the product launch formula is a perfect example of the way things happen with a team, because you always have that foundation, you have that base. It doesn't mean that every single person is bound to you and going to be a part of what you're doing in every case. Like I said, I make products sometimes that I don't like, and that certainly gives the freedom to people on my team not to like certain things I do. But if we are walking together in a pathway that makes sense for the time, then it is successful. And you can always be successful in that, and you always have the power to matter once you have done the things that we've talked about in the last few videos. And once you know that you know that you know that what you are doing is exactly right for you to do at that time. That is the power to matter. When you know you're doing the right thing at the right time with the right tools that you have taken responsibility to develop. Love ya. Glad you were with us for this period of time. We'll see you in the next video, in which I will give you a specific opportunity to join a very specific team and to become part of a very specific purpose. Talk to you later.